use several of them for the rest of the semester because you're going to use this to analyze your own work. So I'm just giving you another one right now. And as we talk about each category, you can use this most recent one to take some notes or just look on as we go through. Okay? Tendencies of effective target texts. Brian Cerny, a researcher in ASL and interpretation, came up with this system to help individuals, interpreters, and students figure out what makes an effective interpretation. How can we look at the product, the final product, and analyze it to see if it's a quality interpretation and if it's effective in transferring meaning? To make it easy, he came up with this really cute catchphrase, the 10 C's. Each of the 10 categories starts with C. Kind of fun. It's easy to remember. Remember last week we talked about cognitive processes? This analysis is not looking at your cognitive process, not your comprehension, and not your reformulating. This is strictly looking at the product that you put out as an interpreter, whether it be this way or this way. It's just the end product. Does that make sense? When you're analyzing your own work, you should still be thinking about what's going on in the other stages, comprehension and reformulation, because that will help you figure out where you're struggling with interpretation. But when I say I want you to analyze your work, I want you to use the 10 C's, I want you to use this. Okay? So, we'll start and go through them to make sure that everybody understands what it is that you're looking for. Okay. The first C is it channeled appropriately? Now remember, we have 3 basic channels for communication: written, spoken, and signed. If we're going from spoken English into ASL, the channel that you're using should only be signed. The whispering and self-vocalization makes it. It will not be channeled appropriately. If the target is supposed to be ASL, there's no voicing in ASL, right? So it should only be signed. So if you hear yourself self-vocalizing, or any noises like that, those sound effects, not channeled appropriately. When you're having a conversation with someone, possibly like Mr. Cook, you might hear lots of other noises that are going on. That's conversation. That's the deaf way. As professional interpreters, someone is speaking or someone is signing at the same time that I'm working. If I'm making all kinds of noises while I'm signing, it can be very distracting for other people in the room. So we minimize self-vocalization, minimize any sound effects at all. You don't need them. It's not truly part of ASL. It's what deaf people usually do, and that's great. That's their mode of communication. But we can say success without making any sound. Non-manual is there, sign is there, but you heard nothing. Okay, so that's channeled appropriately. If we are going from ASL into spoken English, then our hands should not be waving. We should be making signs in our lap as we're trying to voice for someone. Then we would be not channeling appropriately. Okay? So this is a category that should be really simple. I took Brian Cerny's 10 C's and I made a rubric for them to help you look at how to judge your work. The far left-hand side is a 4. Far left-hand column, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, your goal is to get all 4s. That means you're doing it beautifully. If you wanted to think of it not in a point scale, if you wanted to think of it in a grade scale, you could look at this as A, B, C. Okay. that make sense? So, when I look at your work, or when you look at your work, I want you to make comments on this section, and then I want you to circle what you think you would give yourself. How would you rate yourself? A 4, a 3, a 2, or a 1? And there's some descriptors in here. A 4 makes no noises. There's no distractions at all. And it'll tell you how to judge yourself in this category. Okay.
So the comments always come first and then the circling?
Yes, because as you're looking at your work, you want to look at it, you want to think it through, you want to make some comments, and then based on your overall impression, you'll rate yourself. So you're going to give yourself a 4 last.
So that means that, so like, let's say channeled appropriately is the first thing on the list here.
Yes.
But, so am I looking at everything 10 times?
No. Nope. When you get really familiar with this, and it'll take a little while, we're practicing today in class, you're going to be watching someone else work. You'll be glancing through it. So when I'm at home, I know all of these tenses. So I pull your video up, okay, and I start watching it. And I may notice something, and I hit pause, and I'll go, that sign was inappropriate. I'll write down the sign that you signed wrong. Watch it some more. You'll know what the tendencies are after you've done it a couple times. Maybe the first time you do it, you're going to have to go through it 10 times. You're going to look for each one. But after that, you do it holistically. Okay? But your example will support why you're giving yourself a certain grade or a certain assessment. Does that make sense? So the first part, channeled appropriately. Most of you who've gotten feedback from me so far, no unnecessary noises, 4. No distracting mannerisms. Distracting mannerisms would be you interpreting like this, pushing up your glasses constantly, put your hair behind your hair. All that stuff is very distracting. But if you are just going along, you have one of these ones or something, it's not distracting. So you should get 4 and 4. The comments would be no distracting mannerisms, no self-vocalization, 4 and 4. That's your proof. But if something was wrong, like I should pin my hair back next time, right? I should pin my hair back next time. I pushed the hair out of my eyes too many times. It was distracting. I'll give myself a 3. Does that make sense?
Like whenever we had like melding, is that like distracting to that person or would that be grammar?
No, it would be grammar.
Okay.
It would be grammar. Might it be distracting to a person? Sure. To a deaf person, it could be, but the problem is because you're sticking to the English, so the problem is the grammar. Does that make sense? Yeah. I thought you pointed over there. But somebody else wrote in their journal about a pencil would be a good idea. So it's not just the 2 of you. Okay. Now, you know that we occasionally write ASL, we gloss it, all caps, the crazy way that we gloss it, but in ASL there is truly no written form. So we do gloss, but no written. ASL is only signed. But some people would contend, well, you can write ASL if you use these crazy symbols and blah, blah, blah. Okay, also, this is what we just talked about. Remember that if it's spoken, it's sounds only, no hands, no signs. If it's signs, it's only signs, no voicing at all. The second C, clearly articulated. You're going to assess your work to see if it is clear, crisp and clear, and I might add to this section, formal. Remember that when you're interpreting, your production must be formal. This is not a casual conversation with casual sign production. Yesterday, I was teaching technique, and I was signing my lecture to them, and I signed this. Something. This is the sign that I used. After the lecture, someone came up to me and said, "What is this sign?" And I said, "It's semester." And they go, oh, you mean semester. Casual conversation, formal interpreting. See the difference? Okay. When you're interpreting, I need it always to be formal. You're working, you're not going to be a casual conversation. You have to be uber clear for all of your audience, be it deaf or not. Speaking of, you're going from ASL into English, volume, pitch, pronunciation of words has to be clear and accurate. It's Shakespeare. What are those? You know how there's certain things that annoy all of us, right? We all have those things. Gallaudet annoys the heck out of me. It's pronounced Gallaudet. That's the way it's pronounced. But that's the kind of things that I'm listening to. How you're pronouncing words, if they're clear, if the words are running together, you're dropping the line at the end of the sentence. That's clear production, ASL to English. English to ASL, crisp, clear signs, appropriate use of non-manuals, head nods, body shifts, not like this. Okay, so that's not a clear articulation either. That section clear? Okay, so that's the second category that you're going to look at your work on. Now remember, you're not going to catch every single thing. This is kind of a holistic look. Pick out one or two examples, maybe, that's enough. When you get to consecutive interpreting, Carly will probably have you lost lots of everything, sign for sign for sign for sign of your interpretation. I'm not asking for that much detail yet. I'm asking you to look at it holistically, pick out a couple of examples in these categories, and rate yourself overall.
A lot of times, especially because I'm not from Chicago, a lot of times there are words that I know the Chicago sign, I know the general sign, or I know what I grew up learning. So is circumstances like that, what should I do? Should I use as many signs as possible in a 30-second period? Or?
No. Not every sign you could possibly think of for that, like freshman. No, just pick one. Sometimes we grow up learning a few signs out of a book or something, and they become ingrained, and what we're signing is really an initialized sign for a certain word. If that happens, I'll tell you if it's not an ASL sign, but if it's in a regional variation, you sign what you know, and I'll let you know if the sign is different, or I've never seen it, or we don't use it here, whatever it may be. You just go about your business as you normally would and feel comfortable. Good? All right, clearly articulated. The third category that you're going to assess your work is you're going to look and see if it's comfortably paced. Meaning, from the target to the source, it's nice and fluid, it's not choppy, there should be no pauses in between a sentence. This happens when you don't reformulate in your head. When you pick up your hand too early, and you start a sentence. Yesterday, I went. See, then there's a pause in the sentence. I know where you're going because I'm hearing the source. You hear the source, so you may look at it and go, "Oh, that's a whole sentence." Pause. Next sign. There's the end of the sentence. But in reality, it's two separate sentences. When we pause in ASL, or when we pause when we read, what is that insert? A period. So if you sign me go, pause, me go is the end of your sentence. That's a fragment. It's not a whole sentence. It needs to be nice and smooth and go together. Period. Now I've paused and stopped. There's the end of my sentence. So you're looking to see if it's comfortably paced throughout. When it's not, when it gets a little choppy, chances are it's because you pick up your hand and you start signing, end of sentence, and you're thinking about what it is that you want to sign next. So if you do all that whole reformulation process in your head, you won't get choppy. It'll come out nice and smooth. Any questions about that? We're good? Okay. And transition, linking words. Sometimes want to add a transition, then if we pause, and if we pause, it creates a fragment text to be stopped again. So just keep it going, then conclude. What are we at 4? The 4th category is it complete grammatically? I flipped these. It's a C, so complete is supposed to be first, but is it grammatically complete? Meaning, does it follow the grammar of the target language? Now, for you, your target language, group B, for the rest of the semester is always going to be ASL. That's what you're working on. That's what your focus is going to be for consecutive. After break, when we come back and you sit and partner up with someone from an A or an I group, their focus right now is conceptually accurate signed English because they're getting ready to take the EIPA, the educational test. So they're trying to mold every word and use ASL signs in an English order. Okay? I think it's going to be fabulous for you to sit and watch them. And try to help them, give them some feedback when it was complete and when it wasn't. But know that they're working on something different. They're going to be signing in a little bit different system target than you guys. When you get up there, I want you to try to do your best ASL. Does that make sense? All right, so depending on what your client needs, if he wants more of a signed English system or if they want ASL, are you following the grammar rules and the structure of that language? Formal versus casual. The speaker is speaking with 10 words and being very formal, and you are breaking it down into ASL very simple and casual and using like slang signs and idioms. You are not matching the right grammar. So you want to stay in the same register as well. Register is related to the grammar. Any questions about that? Good? Okay. Yes, please.
How do you confuse like with the register and then the formality of the time? That confuses me. What if it is a very casual conversation?
By formality of sign, I'm referring to the appropriate 5 parameters of a sign. Remember? Placement, handshake, location, palm orientation, and animus. I don't know why I can't think of all of them. Okay? So this is the right sign to know something, K-N-O-W, to know something. Formally produced is to know something. This is the right placement. This is the wrong placement. This is formal signing. Okay? But I can sign in a very casual way if the conversation is casual. It's still a formal, completely articulated, clear sign, but I'll use it in a casual sentence or a casual way, but I'm not changing the crisp and clearness of the sign. Does that make sense? Okay. Any other questions? Okay, and as always, your sign choices must be conceptual, conceptually accurate. So when they say the refrigerator is running, you're not signing running. That would not be grammatically correct because it's the wrong meaning and it throws off the meaning of the sentence. So always say conceptual. Questions about that? The hardest thing for many of you is because of the competency in ASL right now. Some of your sentences, this is going to probably where you have the most written detail. Some of your sentences are going to come out Englishy because you forgot topic comment, you forgot rhetorical, you forgot all the different ASL sentence types, and it comes out a little Englishy, so you might have lots of writing in there, in this section, into your comment. Boy, I'm too English. Wow, my sentence structure is too English. Knowing that your target is supposed to be ASL.
Do you want us to use rhetorical questions or not? Because we were told to, at all possible work.
Yeah, and the reason why we say that is because one of the first things that you become so comfortable with in ASL structure is the rhetorical question. Because if you sign a sentence with a rhetorical, it's ASL. So you become so comfortable with them that you overuse them, and almost every output is a rhetorical question. And after that, it's like, okay, you've got to find another sentence type in ASL to use. There are absolute appropriate times to use a rhetorical question. So use them. And for now, if you're stuck and you can't think of another ASL sentence type to use, put it in a rhetorical. I'm okay with that. If you're getting a little crazy and you're using them too much as a crutch, I'll tell you. Okay, but go ahead. Use them. There's definitely appropriate times for them. All right, the next category is conceptually accurate sign choices. I just talked about that. Keep an eye on your work. Make sure that you're picking ASL lexical items based on meaning and not the sound. So if I was to say, I don't know, something, and it all worked out. I'm not going to sign blah, 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 and it all worked out. That's not conceptual. And it all worked out. That's a conceptual sign choice. Worked out and all worked out. All right, so keep an eye on your work, look through it, make sure that it's not a literal translation. I've heard a word in English, I know the sign for it, I just sign it. That meaning, sign choice has to be based on meaning. Good? Yes, worked out. I did work out. Either way, yep, worked out, that works too. That would be conceptually accurate as well. Cohesively organized. I just had a short, brief conversation with Jose about this a minute ago. Especially working in consecutive, this is the hardest thing, one of the most advanced skills that you'll acquire when you're interpreting. And it's linking thoughts together. In consecutive, it's really difficult because you hear a chunk of English, you put out the sentence, then you hear a chunk of English, and then you put out the sentence. It's the nature of the beats. It's the process of practicing in consecutive. But what happens is, it looks like here's a sentence, here's a sentence, here's a sentence. And we know that it all fits together somehow in one lecture, but you're not showing that. So think of ASL transition words. Now, then, remember I just mentioned, blah, 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 blah. So, let's say, can anybody remember one or two sentences from the urban planning video from this week? Or just make it up something that sounds
Understand you. They have like how in the cities where like in the cities the buildings were right, the buildings and houses were next to each other. For the suburbs, they were spaced out in one or two.
Great. Now think of the next sentence to go with that in that lecture. Okay, so I heard that. Pause. Next sentence.
Nobody lives in the suburbs versus the city.
Okay, in the second sentence, she didn't go back and reiterate, but I brought it forward to make the next comment complete. I didn't add anything inappropriately. I didn't add any meaning that was incorrect. I made you go, now it's clear, because I linked the thoughts together. It's called reiteration, and we do it purposely to build this whole big picture of this lecture that we're giving. Does that make sense? Think you guys can do it? No? I like that confidence. I have confidence that you can. All right, next, confident presentation. Your consumers, hearing or deaf, are only going to have faith and trust in you if you either have faith and trust in yourself or you fake them out. Honestly. You could be ready to go behind the curtain and throw up because you are so nervous. Fake it. Fake it out. Look like you are confident and you've been doing this for years no matter what you feel inside. Two reasons. First, the more comfortable you look and the more confident you look, the more that your consumers are going to trust you. But also, the more you put on that professional interpreting persona, the more you're going to start acting like a professional interpreter. So even if you don't feel 100% confident, and even if you make every mistake in the book, just get up there and just do it. And make your mistakes. That's why you're here, to find out what the mistakes are, to learn, to build, to get better. But you can't get better if you don't take risks. So in order to take that risk, you gotta get up here and go, all right, I'm gonna get this one today. And when you make some mistakes, we go, all right, we need to fix that, fix this, and fix that, but man, you look good doing it. Okay? And the more you do that, the more it will become a habit and you'll just be professional. Absolutely. Because everybody's going to make mistakes. A mistake is going to happen every time anybody gets up to interpret. So, yeah, I don't want to say, you can erase it in space. Don't roll your eyes at yourself. Don't, say I want to say a sentence and the incoming word was wine and I sign this. Just correct it and move on. Just correct it and move on. You don't have to. It's no big deal. It happens. Just move on with it. Yes. So, yeah. Be confident and, yep, I'm going to make some mistakes.
Sometimes, in class at least, I want you to know that I, realize I was wrong and, you know what I mean?
I will realize that you're wrong when you fix it. You don't have to tell me. As a matter of fact, I'll go smooth as silk. Signed it incorrectly, self-monitor, felt that you produced something wrong, fixed it, kept going, that'll impress me more. Does that make sense? Yeah. You're all going to make mistakes. We're going to make mistakes all the time. And sometimes in class you'll go like this. It's in class. But try to get out of that habit of commenting on your own work, because that will become a habit too, and it'll be harder to break later. So just put it out there. Fix the mistake if you made it. If you can't fix it because you don't know what you did wrong, drop your hand, pause for a minute, and keep going. Good? Culturally adjusted. Cultural mediation. Whether we're going English to ASL, ASL to English, you have to remember that we're working with two distinct languages, people from all different cultures, essentially multiculturalism and not just bicultural, because we deal with hearing people that have all different cultural backgrounds. But if it's anything that is music related, talking on the telephone, stuff like that, you have to change that a little bit so that deaf people understand it. Call waiting. Whatever it may be. You need to expand on those a little bit more if the culture of the target doesn't understand what the concept is due to the fact that they have no hearing. Okay. A lot of times with the text and materials that we work with in this class, there's not going to be a lot of cultural mediation. Possibly if we go from ASL into English, which we will. If we're doing autobiographies, deaf people telling their life stories, they may talk about a residential school. You may see this, and you would never sign a state institution. You know that this is residential school. That's cultural mediation. So you just want to make sure that if you notice anything glaring in your work, you point it out so that you can not make the same mistake twice. Questions? No? I think we're almost done. Propose with equivalent affect. Affect is emotional intent. Whether it's sarcasm, humor, something that's poignant, heartbreaking, sad. It is not always explicit. A speaker can stand up and speak in English very monotone and very flat, but what they're saying has a lot of affect. Can you think of an example? Okay, what about if I just stood here and said something like, I'm making this up, so just go with it. 21 years ago today, my mother passed away, and it was heart-wrenching. Our family struggled for a long time dealing with the fact that she had cancer, and the cancer had spread throughout her whole body. Actually, my brother had a nervous breakdown during the process because it was so. You hear me? You hear I'm just going like this? But what I'm saying is emotional, yes? And kind of, you know that behind those words there's some emotion, but maybe holding it together. When we go from English to ASL is a visual language. That speaker's monotone, but you better have all that affect coming out in your interpretation. Because what I'm saying in English, a hearing person is going to feel that, right? If I'm just going like this to a deaf person, they're not going to feel that because they don't see the affect. You have to show that affect. I didn't say it that way, but I would definitely be trying it that way. Sorry, because that makes the point, right? Okay, so we want to match affect, not only if I'm saying, and my brother, he had a nervous breakdown, and the whole thing was so hard. That's easy to copy and put into your interpretation, right? Because you hear it so clear. You have to listen for the textual affect, what's in those words, and make sure that you're matching that too.
This is like a really weird question, but I get really concerned about overdoing it because, especially like right after Sandy, when Hurricane Sandy, when there was an interpreter for the mayor in New York, and there was a whole thing, and it was just like she was just interpreting. She was literally just doing her job.
She was,
and there was like a whole outbreak about it because she was doing too much, signing too intently. I don't know what is taking away from speaker and everyone paying attention to them and what is doing your job.
Whose perspective were all those comments coming from? Right. Because they don't know the culture and the modality of ASL and the deaf community and how we communicate. So ignore it. If you're going overboard, I'll tell you you're going overboard. But I would rather rein you in than have you be flat and never be able to feel comfortable giving some affect and getting into it. It's easier to pull back than it is to try to include it. If you're flat and a monotone person, you're kind of always going to be flat and a monotone person. That's not ASL. So take your chances, take your risks, and go. If I say you're like, oh, I'm a little over the top, then we'll just bring you back a little bit. Make sense? All right, and the last one is 10. Sorry, Katie.
Oh, I just had a question about the last one. In the reading, it said, in that paragraph about the equivalency, it says like you should convey if the speaker's nervous, you should look nervous too.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like, would that ever look like you were a nervous interpreter? Maybe if you're like, I mean, I guess, I don't know.
No, because this is actually the way that we do it. Switch with me for 1 second. You pretend like you're going to get ready to talk and you're feeling a little nervous, like shut the computer to talk. So we're getting ready to go. See how I'm looking at her? So that's directing your eyes to look at her. So it's not me that's nervous, okay? But I'm going to act nervous. So that's how we do it. So that it doesn't look like me as the interpreter is nervous. You'll look at them, direct everybody's attention here. Same thing if a speaker stutters or as you know. Say a couple of sentences and add some crazy.
It's like you're walking your dog and then your neighbor's, you have a creepy neighbor and the neighbor is just like not wearing any pants. It's like really hard and I don't really know where it's
great. Thanks. So say we can show that, and if it's a pattern with the speaker, hearing people can hear it. You want to have people to know that this person is really nervous or they can't get a complete sentence out to save their lives, or you don't want to correct it. However, if it hinders your ability to produce a message because you're so focused on all of this craziness, just let it go. It's not important to put in the so. Same thing if you're interpreting and a hearing person is saying to a deaf person, tell him that he can, and I'm interpreting. I'm not going to do that every time. And after a while, I'm just going to interpret whatever she's saying. I'm just going to drop this up him. Because it's just, you want to play the mediation game and you want to give it so that this deaf client has a chance to respond. Oh, just talk to me directly or whatever. But if they don't, then fine, just dropping, going. It's all this filler stuff that takes away from transferring the meaning of a message. Did that answer your question, Katie? Yes, thank you. Good. Okay, so correct information. If they say 1960, you're signing 1960. You're not signing 1970 or 1690 because you got the information wrong. You want the information to be correct. Exactly doesn't have to be exactly. If the source has 5 examples of something and you sign 3 examples and you let 2 go, that's correct information. Every single detail is never ever going to be transferred. You're looking holistically. Is the meaning there? Did you transfer the meaning of the message? That includes explicitly stated meaning, and implicit meaning. Same with that whole, my mother died 21 years ago that I just said. What I didn't say implied in that meaning is that my brother was terrible, that the family was stressed out, that we were all depressed. That's all implied. You got that from my words, didn't you, as hearing people? Because you go like this. What does she mean? What does she mean? What does she mean? And your mind starts going, wow, our family must have been terrible. Her brother maybe went to an institution. Your mind is going with all of the stuff that's implied. Deaf people can't hear that. We have to give it to them explicitly. So it's not adding to the message. It's not adding inappropriately to the message. It's adding meaning to the message. So what's left implied here, we put out directly into ASL. Good? Let's see. I think that's it. All right. Review for me. What are the tenses? What are you looking for in your work? 1. Which means?
No
distraction. Right. 2. Meaning? Formal. Good sign production. No fillers, extraneous movements, things that make no sense. Clear, crisp sign production. 3. Meaning? So pausing, nice and smooth, very fluid. 4. Depending on the target, right? Follow the grammar and the structure of the target language. That would mean that it is an acceptable interpretation. Not necessarily accurate, but it's acceptable only if you're following and you're staying in the right grammar and structure. 5. Meaning? Yes.
You're not signing or something.
Yes. So meaning-based sign choices, not literal sign choices. Meaning-based sign choices. Great. 6. Meaning? Right. Links and transitions. Link your concepts together and make smooth transitions that connect the concepts together. 7. Thank you. Fake it till you make it. Just fake it. I'm not kidding. Fake it. The biggest hindrance to some of the interpretations of the products that you put out will be your nervousness. Fake it till you make it. Seriously. 8. Okay, we all got that, right? 9. Okay, meaning? Don't be monotone, unless the speaker's monotone. Emotional intent. Convey the emotional intent. How does the speaker intend the audience to feel when they hear what they're saying? convey with emotional intent. And 10, needs no explanation, right? Great. Questions? Comments? Anything? Golden? Yeah? Great. Please.
When we're grading our videos based on this, are we gonna get a new copy of this every time, or are we just gonna write like 4 and then write comments and type it out?
I'm going to give you a new copy every time. It makes it easier. If I don't for some reason, or you take off out of class without one, I'm going to try to scan it in on Oasis for this class, so you can always just print it. But again, if not, take a regular sheet of paper or type one, and you should always have the article, so you should know what the 10 are, and then just type yours. So you don't have to use that form, but it's much easier.
What's your PowerPoint on Oasis?
I don't know if this one is yet, but I will.
Okay.
Absolutely. And if for some reason it's not, send me an email and remind me. Angie, throw those PowerPoints I need on Oasis. Because I don't play around on Oasis a lot, but sometimes I need a gentle reminder. So don't just send me an email. What's the PowerPoint on Oasis? Okay, remind me. Alright, so are we feeling excited to get up and try this today? The first, thank you, Tony Mingo. I was not thanking it yet. Alright, the first thing I'm going to do, we're going to take a break. When we come back, I'm going to partner you up with one of the A's and the I's, and I'm going to let you sit and watch. They're going to go for probably a good 20 minutes, so you have plenty of time to watch them, read through, clearly articulated, what does that mean? Yeah, I don't hear any noises, there's nothing distracting. Okay. So you'll have plenty of time to like watch them work and give them feedback. You may not like feedback right now because you're still a little nervous. By the time you get to this stage, you will be going, somebody watch me work and give me feedback. Because all they want to do really is get better, pass these tests, and get out there. You'll get to that point. So I know that you are learning how to give feedback today, but take it seriously. Give them some feedback to help them get better, okay? If you see something that you're not sure about, or a sign or something, make sure you write it down. So then when you're done, you can sit down with them and talk about it. I'm saying this, and either I've never seen it before, or it didn't really make sense, or whatever it is. It doesn't matter that you haven't started consecutive yet. Your eyes are just as good as theirs. So give them feedback if they really want it. Okay. So they'll go about 20 minutes, then we're going to switch. You'll be interpreting consecutively a new topic, and they're going to sit and watch you and give you feedback too. And while we interpret this afternoon, I still want everybody to record themselves. So you'll be recording yourself, and somebody will be sitting there to give you live feedback on the spot. Because your own in-class interpretation on video, you're going to take home and you're going to analyze your own work by yourself using this kind of video. Questions, comments? No? All right, let's take a break. Oh, 15.
Can I look at